Yeah, Theater 2, we have Stay Tuned, my pick for this evening, my only pick. Murphy had two. 1992, starring John Ritter, a real actor, Pam Dauber, who I'm not really familiar with, Eugene Levy, one of the great comedic actors, and Jeffrey Jones, another fine comedic actor. See, actors, because this is a movie. Um, so yeah, fire away.
The old trailer for Stay Tuned. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah. Again, though, didn't hold up as well as I thought it.
It barely held up for me. I'll give you
I've
that.
lost the feeling in my heart. All of a sudden, I can't see anything.
Sorry to disturb you at this hour, but I have something you
Sunday
want.
City, different strokes.
A new TV?
It broadcast programs no one had ever seen.
Wednesday at 9, don't miss an all-new episode of The Silencer of the Lambs.
Then one night, Roy and Helen Nabel got sucked in and discovered that hell is one TV show after another.
Let's welcome our new contestants, Roy and Helen Nabel.
And they're starring in every show.
I've watched enough wrestling to know one thing. It's all fake. No one ever gets not fake.
Yeah, I like the premise of this movie a lot
The
better.
object, Mr. Pierce, is to kill
This
them
one-
before they reach the end.
I bet you Joss
Oh my
Whedon
God,
saw
we're
this movie because
cartoons. I am not a mouse. I'm Helen Nabel. I
Cabin,
have two
what is it
beautiful
called?
children.
Cabin in the Woods.
Mom,
Has
our parents
kind of
are
takes
trapped
some
in
things from it.
television.
Now, they can't go home. They can only switch channels.
Where'd he go?
Hey, lady, watch out!
And every series is a nightmare.
That's entertainment.
Because Satan is the sponsor.
Okay, everybody, head spins. Very good. Very
See, that's a better
nice.
gag than any of the UHF gags.
Not even. I would have. That's a better gag than any of the gags you went God, this
Look,
scene
it's a
was
song by
Comedy
musician.
from hell.
Some of these gags I didn't find funny. Like, I didn't find Dwayne's Underworld funny.
I was impressed with the impression.
Stay tuned.
Where have you been?
That was funny. You might not get that.
I do get that. Yeah, the Three's
Okay.
Company reference.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because he started in
so
Three's Company. So he was just playing his character from Three's Company there for a second. That was hilarious.
that was a nice little meta joke. But apparently,
Yeah.
so in the trailer you saw there, they did a close up of the lookalikes. They ended up taking that out in the final film, I guess. I
they
was
not in it?
really, yeah. In the scene for the Three's Company one, they have a close up of the two girls. They're just lookalikes from the old show. Yeah, they ended up taking that out in the final film. You don't get the actual close up of them.
Yeah. It's fine. Well, this movie. Are you gonna take us through it, or am I?
Oh no, I can do that. Yeah. So 1992's comedy fantasy film Stand 2, directed by Peter
Hyams.
Hyams.
All right, I'm taking over. So stay tuned. 1992.
I'm just messing around. Come on, okay. The film follows a suburban couple. We get introduced to their neighbors, the Reidenbaums, which quickly are dispatched by mysterious door knocker played by Jeffrey Jones, known as
Jeffrey
Spike.
Jones plays a good
we're getting
villain.
quick-
Jeffrey Jones.
Okay, here's the thing about this film, and this is this screenshot right here. This film has
Oh,
about
his
as
product
much
placement
substance
all
as-
over it.
as the product placements throughout the entirety of this film. That's how much
There's
substance
tons
this
of
film
product
has.
placement.
There's
But
the
they're like,
Fritos
that's-
Lays,
That
there's the
itself is a
Twinkies.
gag, is a meta gag. Like everything in this movie is on purpose.
Is it though? Is it
Yes,
a
it
meta
is.
gag, or was the way?
Yes,
they
'cause
they
this movie
funded
is full of
this
meta gags.
ridiculously expensive film?
Oh, I'm sure they used that particular meta gag to pay for all the other gags. Like they definitely got some cheddar cheese from that product placement. Like it's everywhere. But
So
it's
we're introduced to
it's
John
part
Ritter's
of it.
character Roy Nabel, sitting in his chair, surrounded by his junk food, flipping through the tube. He then proceeds to jump out of his chair when one of his favorite fencing films comes on. He pulls a fencing sword off. I was like, why does this guy have a fencing sword? it later comes to highlight that he is actually a high school champion fencer. His wife, played by Pam Dauber, Helen Nabel, is then introduced to the scene as she's exhausted by her husband's TV
She's very
watching.
good in this. I'm surprised I haven't seen her in other things.
Yeah,
Or
she
maybe
was
I have, but
really good in it. She played the thing about her character was she had really strong and sensible character motivations in the beginning, and then by the end of it, it was all just thrown away for typical damsel in distress nonsense. Um, she
yeah,
was,
at the end.
she's clearly a woman that is untouched and unloved by her husband, and she's getting fed up by it. And Roy's just like depressed about his failing plumbing job and is just sucking.
The ending's not my favorite, but
We're then introduced to Dave Tom's character, Daryl Nabel, the son, who is some sort of magic tech nerd. He's taken over the radio airwaves and wants to be a little perv and sell videos of his sister kissing another boy. And people can get
he's
at
a weird
him.
kid.
He's a really weird kid. I found this whole
Yeah.
scene just unsettling and it's like
Me too.
this I found disturbing. I'm like, why are you trying to hawk vids of your sister, my guy? His gear blows up. Which
I think he's
becomes a
doing it
sign of
really
gag.
just to piss her off, but
Yeah,
maybe not.
So this film is narrated by David Nabels, Daryl Nabels. Basically, he's setting it up that his family had a really weird night. He tries to basically get his mom and dad to go on a sex vacation, and go on it
Because it worked for
trip
his
in the
friend's
hills.
parents.
Because it worked for his friends, yeah. So him and his sister leave for the night. They go hang out with their friends. But we get the setup here between this is what I call the unfair treatment of a Rottweiler trope. This dog clearly just wants pats, and he's got a shitty owner, and they're trying to make it seem like
Yep.
he's a vicious dog, and it's terrible,
Yep.
and I hated this.
He's
I hate
just a
this
good
whole
boy.
fucking trope throughout
Just a
the
good
movie. He's
boy.
such a good boy. He's such a good boy. He deserves pats and treats, and he just wants to wrestle a little. He doesn't want to harm a damn human thing, and it made me mad, and I hated that about this film. I hated that about this film so much. I was like, stop this.
Oh man, well
unfair.
look, the angry dog was a huge '90s trope. There was an angry
I know,
dog in
it's such
like
a lame
half
trope.
of '90s movies.
So yeah, he's trying to make sales. It was never really clear that he's a plumber. I only figured out he's a plumber when I was reading.
Plumbing salesman.
Yeah,
He's
I
like
never. That was never. Was that made clear at any point? Because I never really figured that out. Because I only figured that out when I was reading more about this. I was like, what the fuck was his job?
It was. I mean, but the only thing that matters is he has a job that he hates, and he'd rather just stay home and watch TV because he's obsessed with TV. And you know what? There were a lot of people like that back then. TV was like cable was new, so people were used to having 3 channels. So as soon as you had like 70 channels or even 30 channels, it went to 31 first. We had 31 channels on that old converter. But then that was kind of amazing. Like now it's everyone just stares at a screen all day anyway, so it's like not very significant to look back on, I guess. But like this was the beginning of like
I remember the day my parents got like a black box, which was the illegal cable television hookups. Yeah, TV addiction started very hard that day in my parents' house, in my house. Yeah, lots of things started being watched.
My screen addiction as a child is why we have this particular podcast here, because I just watch the Movie Network all day, every day.
It's true. The Movie Network was solid. I don't even know if it's still around these days.
It was great.
No
TV channels are around these days.
Helen and Roy have an
TV
argument
channel.
after the kids go out for their shenanigans of kidness, which Helen just loses her shit, takes Roy's fencing trophy and just biffs it through the TV, much to Roy's dismay.
Serious reaction, gotta say. Serious reaction.
Yeah.
But this has probably been, we only get to see a brief snippet of his screen addiction. He's probably been like ignoring his family for like 2 years. And she just finally had enough. But serious.
So yeah, after the TV smashes, Helen, I believe, at this point, Helen decides to roll out. She needs some space, leaving Roy at home to
She's
watch
taking the
TV
kids, isn't she saying? She's like, I'm taking the kids. We're all leaving.
So Roy's watching whatever he's got on his tiny TV, and that's when Jeffrey Jones, a spy character, knocks on the door with his sinister deal of a satellite TV with 666 channels of interdimensional television
Yeah,
and a giant
666.
TV, all for free. Roy's ready to turn it down because he thinks he's going to talk to his wife, but he goes, "You can have it for free," and he perks up and takes the deal. And somehow this dude gets a satellite this big installed in his backyard the same night in less than an hour and doesn't have any questions raised about it. Jeffrey
He just
Jones
thinks
then
they're
drives
really good.
off and he's like, "You're going to a dead end," which we then get this scene where he basically drives into a portal to hell, which is when Helen comes back to find out, and he's watching Three Men
and Rosemary's Baby.
And then that's when we're introduced to your favorite scene from
This is just because this scene's just crazy. It's crazy, and it's also a bit prophetic.
Sadistic video.
Out of here?
Hmm?
I guess not. Oh, there
We
it
thought
goes.
it would be funny if our Bob, dressed as a policeman, would tell a perfect stranger that her husband is dead.
Yes.
Mrs. Cecily Barth?
Yes.
Your husband's name was Stephen Barth?
Was. What do you mean was?
Did your husband drive a 1978 Chevrolet Impala?
What are you saying? Has something happened to my Stephen? Tell me.
Now watch her reaction to the bad news.
I'm afraid so.
This is gonna be horrible. Like what? Oh god.
I think it's
This
time
is
for
insane.
Mrs. Barth to be let in on the fun. Don't you?
Mrs. Barth, look across the street at that van behind me. Look really carefully.
It's just hilarious how she doesn't. She's not
It's a
mad. As
count,
soon as she
yeah.
sees the camera, she's like, "What?"
You mean
Yes, Mrs. Barth. You're on.
statistic hidden videos? Your Bob.
He's like, "What? How can that be a show?"
Terrible.
He's like, "What?"
This is
No,
terrible.
it's crazy.
We're talking
But
about fucking bad acting, and this is like some of the worst I've ever seen.
well, that's. I mean, that need not even be acting. That's just. Anyway, that's America's Funniest Videos was huge back then, so that was funny.
Yeah, no, I get
but
that.
but also it's prophetic because now in the modern age people would probably do that shit. Back then that's crazy. Like you would go over to somebody's house and say something like to them, but like with people like Tom Green and Jackass and like these prank shows and stuff, like in Practical Jokers I think is one, they would probably do shit like that. So it's like this movie is very prophetic in a way as well.
I suppose so. So anyway, Helen gets back. She's losing her shit because Roy's out there trying to fix the cable.
It's screen
and start
addiction.
losing signal. It is.
It's
screen
prophetic
addiction.
for that reason.
No,
like that's
yeah. I suppose in a sense, I didn't really view this movie as a prophetic movie. I just viewed this movie as like loosely stringed chaos.
Oh, it's definitely loosely stringed chaos.
Helen starts whacking the.
That might be a
satellite dish
strength.
starts whacking the satellite dish with a shovel, which turns it on. As her and Roy start arguing, and she's trying to walk away, the satellite dish takes their briefcase, sucks it in. And the moment that the satellite dish started sucking things in, I was like, they're gonna suck in the dog. That's gonna be like one of the last scenes that dogs get sucked into the stupid satellite dish. Yeah, good use of warp effects here, pulling them in. We go through the wire tunnel where Spike eats them up, and then we get the transition between this guy and his
This guy's smile was just funny. You just zooming in on Jeffrey Jones' face, and all of a sudden you got that guy just like, I don't know. That made me laugh actually. This is such a ridiculous smile.
They're introduced as candidates in the hellish television.
You can't win.
You can't win.
This is a fun gag too. Just ask you questions that you'll either get wrong or get in trouble. It's like you can't win.
You get introduced to this, which is I kind of found funny, was the chair that was a toilet and a TV and a beer fridge and a phone.
The Napper Crapper 2000.
The Napper Crapper 2000. And that's when we get to introduce.
See, this movie was kind of like
Levy's
my
character.
UHF. I watched this movie a few times as a kid, and I remember these gags. And like,
so this was when we get introduced to the best character in the whole movie, Eugene Levy, hands down.
Absolutely,
hands down best character. But then I was
he's
super
perfect
surprised,
in every...
motherfucker, to see Eric King. Eric King was in this movie. I was like, wait,
I don't know him really.
You don't know?
Surprise, motherfucker.
I'm so sad. Okay,
I
so
can't think of anything I've seen him in.
he played was it Sergeant Dokes in
Oh,
the
was
show
he
Dexter?
Dokes? Oh, I
He's
loved Dokes.
Dokes.
Never mind.
Surprise, motherfucker.
There, ain't it? Yeah. It's been a long time since I saw Dexter, but I stopped watching it when they killed Dokes. Dokes is the man.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. So yeah, I was very surprised to see Eric King in this film, and he's playing Pierce. Was it Pierce? I think it was. His character's name. Eric King. Yeah, Pierce. He was playing
Again, good actors.
Pierce.
They've got a lot of good actors in this movie, and they're working with their kind of silly roles, and they're like a lot of them. They're all playing it straight. Like it's the thing about UHS is it's just everyone's trying to be funny, so they're not funny. Like trying to be funny doesn't work. You can't get up on stage as a stand-up comedian and try to be funny. You have to try to be like relatable in your dialogue and like
Well, that's the thing in UHS.
true
They weren't
life
trying
stuff.
to be funny. They were funny. So I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, sir. So yeah, we introduced Eric King and Eugene Levy character. Pierce is getting the explanation from Eugene Levy's Crowley.
This is the scene that reminds me of Cabin in the Woods, because they have those guys that are like working for the devil that are standing in a room very much like this and looking at the screen and who's gonna So I feel like this did have some resonance that way as well.
Yeah, we get introduced basically to Hell's production area. We're then brought back to the opening neighbors. The what were their name again? The Robin Bombs or something like that. Anyway, the Riding Bombs. Yeah, they're in basically a Godzilla film where the wife gets crushed by Godzilla and the husband runs away. And it's
Eugene Levy's so good in this movie.
Eugene Levy's like his back is broken. He carried this film, in my opinion. He did so.
Well, John Ritter's always great. Like John Ritter's great in everything.
John Ritter definitely acted his ass off in this film.
He always does. R.I.P.
I don't know. Yeah, he was great. So yeah, we get the Roy.
He was one of the great actors of my childhood. Like when I was growing up, John Ritter was in a lot of stuff, and he was great in all of it, man. Like, yeah, a lot of nostalgia for just John Ritter, really.
Yeah. So we find out we got 24 hours for our contestants, the Nables, to survive all the chaos of these television shows. If they die, their souls are taken to hell under the contract. But if they survive, they might be all right. So they go through the first door, which is these
contract, which will come into play later.
A contract which does come into play later, and I did like this effect, this little door effect.
That was very cool. I wonder how they did that.
The way they push through it, and it like fabrically like rolls over them.
It's practical, right? Like that's a practical effect.
Well, yeah, basically they probably just push themselves through like a green fabric or blue fabric, and then they just replace the screen with like static.
Oh yeah.
Like it's not a hard effect to do, but it was well done.
That's true.
Actually, it is
just green screen or whatever.
I think it is green because wait. Can't tell. Maybe it was either green under the guy's arm or that's his pants. Either way, they push on into one of my favorite scenes in the film, which was the wrestling scene. Which
do you recognize the wrestler? I'm pretty sure I do.
Yes. Okay. So we got some wrestling.
It's one man gang, right?
Yes, Akeem? It is one man gang or King or Akeem. He's the male wrestler. They have a female. She's not a wrestler. She's mostly just a stunt woman.
Stunt actress.
But they did have Lou Albano play the ring announcer in commentary.
Yeah, Lou Albano
for this scene.
Captain Lou, Mario himself.
Captain Lou Albano. So Roy's, this becomes this is like where I'm like, oh, I see where this film's going. Is Roy's gonna be needing the help, and Helen's gonna end up saving him, and all this stuff. And they sort of do that for the first half of this film. Helen ends up being the one to outsmart the
keep them alive, basically. The point of all these different shows that they get put in is to kill them. Like they're supposed to like be killed in all these situations. So there's like a lot of stakes in this movie, and a couple of those scenes are actually kind of intense. Like the next one, I believe, which is Northern Overexposure, I think.
Yes, yeah.
Maybe that's a bit later.
That's basically what happens when they go through this portal here. After Helen uses a foreign object to knock out her competitors and get the pin, they fall through the next portal. Where we get back to David and the kids.
And here's another.
TV.
funny meta gag that's going on here. Oh, I always remember this Max Hell thing too.
The Max Hell one.
Yeah, that always stuck with me. Because you'd see
Yeah,
those Dolby
I've never
commercials where
seen
they
this,
would.
but like I recognize what like the reference, the whole like
It's the
stereo
Dolby
commercial and
commercials.
TV thing, Dolby commercials. It will blow you
It
away.
blow you away. But yeah, so that was pretty cool. But oh yeah, so the another meta gag in this is that he spends all his time watching TV and it has done absolutely nothing for him. Because like he's watched enough wrestling that he should have known just grab a friggin' steel chair and bash the guy or whatever, right? But she's coming up with all these solutions when really he's the one who should, because he's seen all this shit so many times. But, but she's just good on her feet, and he's kind of a bit useless, at least in the first half of this movie.
Yeah. So we get introduced.
He is.
Yeah, that's the big
Eugene.
yeah. So we get introduced to Northern Exposure, where Eugene Levy's character Crowley, who was sucked into the TV because he was telling Spike off, or he made a crack or whatever, which he didn't like, sucked him into hell vision. He's digging for the next portal, which he finds under this ice, and then they're attacked by wolves, which surrounds.
This scene's legit scary. Wolves are scary. Those wolves are chasing them down, man.
I guess.
Yeah.
They're not. Anyway, so this is one of the weirdest scenes. Is they're in the kitchen here. The kids are about to figure out that they're home alone, and David pulls out a box of Dunkin' Donuts from under the counter near the oven. Like,
some people buy a box of donuts and keep it in their house for a couple days. There, Murphy.
What?
People buy boxes of donuts. Americans, anyway.
You know, and he also grabs a bottle of Pepsi out of the fridge. This is when the product placement became super
the product placement
to me. So apparent.
It was everywhere.
So David, you know, being investigative, wise, wondering kid that he is, discovers his mom's watch, and then the satellite sucks his hat up and his BMX bike, which apparently this BMX bike is considered like in the world of BMX like a cherished movie idol prop. Like it's owned by a private collector and it's brought to BMX conventions to be shown off.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, I was like, wow, that's really weird and specific.
Oh man, but like I was probably the same age as that kid when this movie came out, and a BMX bike was everything back then. If you like just the words BMX got you excited. You're like BMX, just those letters. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you were badass if you had a BMX bike. We came back to Northern Exposure where Eugene Levy's losing his fingers.
I even had fingerless gloves to go with my BMX bike.
We get introduced to a few more shows like 30 Something to Life and the Silencer of the Lambs commercial.
That was kind of funny.
Wait, was it? I can't remember if that was my favorite scene was amongst those commercials or if it was after this stuff. But yeah, Eugene Levy makes a break for it to get attacked by wolves. He sacrifices himself, saying, "You know, I'm dead already, so it's fine. You guys get out of here." The cabin gets set on fire, and they get the ingenious idea to push the cabin over the ice to the sinkhole in the ice. Which I was like, you know what? That's actually clever. This was a clever
good idea.
movie idea. Just like push the whole cabin thing.
There's actually a lot of, if you'd like wade through the product placement, there's actually a lot of clever stuff in this movie.
Yeah. And then we're introduced to the fucking cartoon animation
cartoon
show.
scene.
Yeah, the cartoon scene, which is a good like 15-20 minutes that Dave eventually clues in that his parents are in the TV. Joe's living his donut dreams to only be attacked by this robot cat.
RoboCat.
RoboCat with just some ridiculous scenes of animation. Like it was I felt this maybe went on a bit too long, but from my understanding, this
I
was
agree.
like 9 months into production before they even started filming any live action television.
Oh wow.
This was a funny gag where, you know, they get the cat trapped in the water and she's like, before they push it, she's like, kids, don't try this at home. Yes, don't push electronics in bathtubs of water. Like, good lord. And then this little funny gag where it's activating lifetime. We got 10 hours left of these guys.
The scene where he's like hitting on her and they're both cartoon mice is pretty hilarious.
She's like, you touched me when I was a real woman. And he's like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's like Clueless, man. Clueless. He's got a bit of adventure in his life and he's all rowdy. She eventually escapes out the thing, and he's trying to figure himself out, which he then writes an Acme letter calling in, uh, a dog to attack to take care of the cat for him. So it's a little chaotic cartoon scene. He dips in, and this is what leads to my favorite scene.
Different
That made
strokes.
me laugh. The different strokes scene. This scene
That one's
killed
crazy
me.
too.
It was so good.
I've lost the feeling in my arm. All of a sudden, I can't see anything.
Sundays at 8. Different strokes.
Best joke in the whole movie. Best joke in the whole movie. There wasn't a single joke in this movie that made me laugh as hard as that
Different
joke.
strokes.
Different
strokes. That is a good one. Yeah.
It's so good. It was so good. The different strokes joke got me.
Just
Which led to
show
my
different
choice,
people
which
having
is-
strokes. Like, what?
Yeah, like, he just gets old people. They're sucked into the television. And they're sitting on a couch wondering what's going on. Then they have a stroke, and then there's their episode. Like, what a quick, easy
Oh
way
my
to get a
God.
soul, I guess. So through
Oh,
the
here's
channel
where it's
flipping,
getting
we're
very
introduced
zeitgeist.
to Dwayne's World, the Saturday Night Dead sketch with Dwayne and what was his name? It wasn't Garth. It was like Barf or something like that.
Barf.
I was curious because through the trailer, I thought, did they actually get
No.
Michael Myers and Dana Carvey to play the role? No, they didn't. But they were offered to do the roles, but Michael Myers and Dana Carvey couldn't do it because they were filming Wayne's World at the time. So,
Which is pretty funny. This came out before Wayne's World, probably. But they
probably
still
or
will do
just
it. They were
slightly
doing the
after.
skit on SNL for.
Well, there's a
couple years
joke
at that
in
point.
like Wayne's World 2 where one of the managers calls Wayne Dwayne. So,
Oh
there's
yeah,
a
that's
tip
true.
of
Yeah.
the hat. But yeah, we get
Oh,
the
very
I
good.
worships Satin joke with all the like, Deadites clapping
That was a pretty
along.
funny gag, actually. Ooh,
Yeah,
sleep.
the Sphincter Boy shirt, like the whole thing. They start giving
Eh,
him the
I
wink
take it
monkey
back. That's
cam.
actually pretty funny. Yeah, this is a pretty funny gag.
Yeah, like this was probably one of the other few scenes that I enjoyed probably the most. They're gonna give him a poker to the eye, but he kicks it out of the way, breaks the rope, breaks free, and he's off. And then he's introduced to his Detective Roy storyline, where he's like having his inner monologue. Basically, it's like Picard on the holodeck, but just a bit.
Dixon
clumsy.
Hill.
Dixon Hill. It's his Dixon Hill, but he. Okay, so
What's
this is
shaking,
funny.
dicks? Same as always, Nikki. Martinis and skirts.
So if you notice here, the gun drops on the floor and it goes off, and it's supposed to lead you to believe that the gun is pointed at the wall and hits the wall. The gun's actually pointed at his foot here.
It is, yeah.
So he should be losing a toe, but he doesn't. We get back to introduce to Helen, who's at a hotel. She's then stolen by some gangsters and brought to the local club. Everyone's dying except for the Nables. They seem to be succeeding.
Nables.
They're into their 18th or 19th hour, and they're trying to.
Yeah, if they survive 24 hours, they get to go home.
Yeah, they get to go home via the contract. Pierce is like, let me take the reins. I've got some ideas, and then we're brought to a bunch of scenes.
Yeah, they also say that it's only
exercises.
happened once. Only one person got away, and it was just like some like gardener from Mexico or something, or Puerto Rico. It's just like some random guy.
So yeah, we get the exercises joke, the Yogi beer commercial for the kid that wants to be like their beer drinking dad without the alcohol.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
And then
Kids hooked on the
David,
stuff early. Yeah.
David finds his dad.
Oh, speaking of which,
dish.
hair of the dog, eh, Murphy?
Yeah, you know what? I'll have a little sippy poo myself.
Oh, Jesus, I shouldn't be doing this.
So,
tune into X-Rated. Proteus Part 1 to see why.
So yeah, David's trying to get his sister and her friends to stay out of the backyard because he can tell that this satellite dish is bad business. Proceeds to soak him with the hose. She loses his shit, and he's like, "Look at the TV, woman." and she notices her mom's on the news, and that's when she gets invested.
Classy
And there's
Dane
5
vanishes. I found that headline very funny. Just the classy Dane.
So we're at the classic like Maltese Falcons setup at the diner. We're introduced to the neighbors again, or the surviving neighbor, and he proceeds to tell that he's been getting through the channels because he's smuggled in his own remote, and that's how he's been getting out. And you get this plot point about being able to use the remotes. Within this whole scene, this is where Roy ultimately goes to confront Helen and this guy. Then they're attacked with, a bunch of gangster comes in with 2 Uzis. I thought I had these screenshots, but apparently I didn't. Oh yeah, okay.
Good.
So yeah, he comes through. They're all hooked in. He figures out, it's about the remote, which they end up getting after the whole shootout. Roy blindly shoots. He gets his thing, and they end up going to this French thing. Why are my screenshots all mixed up? Yeah, they end up changing channels, and they're a French Revolution. Yes,
Strangelove.
The Doctor Strangelove. This made me like ah.
I love Doctor Strangelove.
Yeah, the Doctor Strangelove cameo was really nice. But yeah, these two, they get the remote. They end up in a French Revolution era where they're basically what was he, a prince or something like that, in disguise as a woman. And he's gonna get his head chopped off if they find him, which ultimately they find him. David gets the idea to I don't know where he got the idea, but he's like, I'll just hook into the satellite dish, and then he starts giving a radio signal. He's getting past the dog and all this stuff, sneaking in the neighbor's yard. While they're about to chop his head off, he breaks in, and they're like, God. He's like, Dad, is that you? And they're like, the French people think it's God. And Helen works with it, pretends it's God.
Yeah.
He tells them to let them go. At this point, Spike's losing it. He gets informed, though, that, he only has to give up Roy because Roy was the only one who put his name on the contract. So he can steal Helen.
So he's got Helen regardless. Yeah.
He's got Helen regardless. So, he does that. He lets Roy go, and Roy's gone. The kids will help him, and he goes and gets Helen. And I loved this shot. This shot was amazing. This cape is amazing.
It was amazing.
This cape is humongously, ridiculously amazing, and I love the way it looked. This was probably
a lot
my
of the
favorite
sets
shot.
and props and costumes in this movie are excellent. They spent a lot of money.
Production. That's the thing. It's a higher production valued movie in the sets and the props and the cops, but a lot of the jokes didn't land the same way like UHF's jokes land. I find. I don't know.
Like they weren't offensive enough.
Nostalgia. So yeah, we get this. We get introduced to Helen being put on the tracks, Snidely Whiplash style. Man's a classic of drama. She's tracked to the traps, and he wants to get Roy back in. She's strapped to dynamite. Roy grabs the remote and heads back in like a hero. Where he has this Clint Eastwood standoff. The pallbearer wants to size him up. And he gets shot for the bullet only to land in that remote. They have their sort of standoff, and we get brought to the Star Trek scene.
I should have picked this one, I guess. Oh well.
I'm surprised you didn't pick this one, to be honest. I was like, he's surely gonna pick the Star Trek scene. Nope, not the Star Trek scene. Okay, well, there you go. So
it was hard for me to pick a scene.
That's fair, I guess.
But I should have picked the Star Trek scene.
Yes, a lot of Jeffrey Jones. He plays Worf and Data, scare enables. They set phasers, and he gets out of there to be transported into a crash test dummy scene, and it's one rapid scene after another. We get our slap shots reference with this scene where he's a hockey guy. You see the 3 guys do like a body check from behind. It's very slap shot reference. The driving over Miss Daisy. He's just channel flipping at this point. Then we get the Three's Company.
Reference.
Roy's trying to find his way through this chaos, and then this is this big like heroic scene where he gets to fight Spike in the fencing. He says he's a champion only to be like, well, I was second place, but either way, and they have their scrap and duel. And this movie, this was good. This was good. This was doing good. up until this moment. Then I'm like, oh God, what's happening? And then I realized this was like, oh, this is the music video portion of this movie, much like we had with UHF. And we get the salt and pepper.
The movie
these
keeps
guys...
happening through the music video, which it doesn't in UHF. It's just, let's
That's
pause
not
now
true,
for a Weird
sir.
Al music
That's
video.
not true, because this is
It
the
is
Salt
true.
and Pepper music video. I don't know if you went back and watched this music video on its own, but this is just the music video.
Yes, but they're in it. In the movie is still
They're in the
progressing
music video
while
as
that's
well,
happening.
yes, because
Exactly.
it's the same scene. The music video is the scene from the movie.
Mhm.
So they just did what Weird Al did in UHF, is they had a music video and then played this scene.
That paused the movie to play a Weird Al video, whereas the movie keeps happening through this music video. It's just another set.
So, yeah, I all the same. Yeah, this scene was a bit grating for me. It went on longer than I needed it to. They're playing basically,
I don't know.
cat and
John
mouse.
Ritter in that outfit is kind of worth the price of admission.
I mean, this look
Look at
alone
that.
from John Ritter is pretty spectacular. I'm not gonna lie.
That is
As
amazing.
absurd as it was. But yeah, John Ritter eventually gets the remote and he sucks, Spike away, does his final dance off, and then he saves his wife. He's trying to futz with the remote, and his kids tell him to just turn off the damn remote. And apparently that works.
Exactly.
As a thing, you get your baby.
They're like, when you don't like a show, you turn it off.
Yeah.
Like,
So yeah, they're there.
Yeah. But he doesn't
Then
think
we
like
get
that because they show all the scenes with him earlier where he just keeps flipping the channels. He doesn't like something, he goes to another channel.
Then we get the stereotypical dog's gonna attack him only to get sucked away scene. Poor good boy being treated terribly.
We knew that was
coming. And then their satellite dish just melts. It's like typical 92 CG era graphics melts.
Not bad actually for 92.
Not too bad, yeah. We get the final scenes where we're introduced to the dog barking at Spike, who's hanging on the chandelier, and Eugene Levy's character, legless and armless, laughing, chops it down so that he can get his comeuppance. And as you see, Eric King's character here with the smoke and the controls, he's in charge.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Dokes is awesome.
Dokes is awesome, and yeah. And now that's there. We get the final wrap ups. Roy Nabel has opened up a fencing school, and he's beating up little children with his
found his
fencing
calling.
skills. Yeah, he found
What
his
he always
calling.
wanted.
He's put the TV down. He's brought back his TV watching, and a little girl attempts some fancy move. And he's like, "Where'd you learn that?" She's like, "I saw it on TV." And he's like, "You shouldn't watch too much TV. It can get you into trouble." And then we get the credits. We're introduced to the Hell TV fall lineups like Beverly Hills 90666.
90666. That was fun.
I Love Lucifer, Golden Ghouls, Murder She Likes, Facts of
Murder
Life
She
Support,
Likes,
Fresh Prince of Darkness, Unmarried with Children, David Dukes of Hazzard.
It's David Dukes of Hazzard. Oh shit.
Yeah, so that's basically Stay Tuned.
See, the thing I like about the spoofing, like in like the fake TV shows and the things like in this compared to UHF, is that they all had a theme and a purpose. It was all like, what's the devilish version of this show? So it's like it just connected better, and
See,
I felt
okay,
it was funnier.
I get that, but like this is just like multi-interdimensional television show, which admittedly was done better on a Rick and Morty episode in the first season, so like I don't know, I was a little like, they were all right, but they were hellish spoofs and all that, but I felt like the UHF one was done better because even though they were foolish shows, they were very much shows that were based in the reality that they were in. They were real television shows within that universe, as opposed to this one where they're just hell universe versions.
These two movies are apples and oranges in one way. Like one is a more like real world take, I guess. even though the characters are like completely unreal.
It's a spoofy
and
real world
clowns.
take.
Yeah, whereas this one has actually like a sci-fi theme. This is like a
that's the
sci-fi.
thing. One's clearly a spoof film, and in that realm of spoofism, and this one is very much like they wanted to
like a
be
sci-fi
portrayed
comedy.
as a serious sort of sci-fi comedy film, you know. And it does that to a degree, you know. So like, you know,
I'm over my slight letdown.
right.
Like when I watched it compared to when I was a kid, I'm like, oh, I like this better as a kid. But you know what? This movie is actually pretty good. I like StayTuned quite a bit. So which performance would I hold up? Oh, Eugene Levy, all day.
Yeah, Eugene Levy holds
all day.
holds the charts up and down all day long. Like,
No, I do think the
get
two
better.
stars are excellent. JohnRitter and Pam Dauber are excellent in this as well, and Jeffrey Jones. Like the main four are excellent.
And you know, Eric King.
Surprise, motherfucker.
He's not in it a whole lot.
He's not in it a lot, but the parts that he is in it are
good.
Are good.
Yeah.
He does hold it together. You know,
So I mean, this is a movie filled with excellent actors and excellent comedic actors. So they like you could have cast this cast in UHF. UHF still would have been like a badly written movie, but it would have been better because you'd have real actors doing these things. Like if you give Weird Al's character to Eugene Levy, now there's a movie. Like, I mean, a weird pick, mind you, but like Eugene Levy's just gold every time. He's gold every time.
I don't know. Yeah. I think UHF is a classic and iconic in its own. But let's get some movie morsels first. Stay tuned. What do you say?
Let's do it. Yeah. Oh, one quick thing, because it'll only take us a second there, Murphy. The setting aesthetic, excellent. They spent money on this one. Everything looks great.
Yes, it's a time capsule of the 90s, easily. Yeah.
Like when they spent money.
90s,
this is what you get when you spent money in the 90s.
Yeah. If you spent like on an A- production, it wasn't like a blockbuster film by any chance. But
no, it's not like Terminator 2 money. Now that's what you get when you spend money in the 90s.
True.
Still the best sci-fi CGI ever.
This is what you get when you spend product
Terminator
placement
2.
money. This is what you get when you spend product placement.
Exactly.
Money. Yeah. So speaking of product placements, when sending away for something from Acme as a cartoon mouse, the envelope Roy is mailing as a stamp featuring the likeness of cartoon legend Chuck Jones, who supervised the animation sequence of the film. Yeah, well, Chuck
Jones is the greatest voice actor of all time.
Which, you know, honestly probably is an attribution to why that animated scene was probably one of the better scenes in the whole film.
Yeah. I forget. There's a video on YouTube. There's a great voice actor. It may even be Hank Azaria saying why. No, I'm thinking of Mel Blanc, not Chuck Jones. Chuck Jones drew Looney Tunes. Mel Blanc was the voice actor. Never mind.
Yeah, Mel Blanc was the voice actor. Peter Hyams had been so captured by the script that he repeatedly badgered Morgan Creek executives until they agreed to let him direct the movie. As I mentioned earlier about the two trailers, the Three's Company spoof, I'll skip over that one. On the name board in the control room in hell, there's an office message saying to remember that Tuesday is Saddam Hussein Appreciation Day.
Oh my God. I missed that. Good Lord.
Tim Burton was offered to direct this film, but turned it down to direct Batman Returns in 1992 instead.
I'm glad. This doesn't strike me as a Burton movie. It would have come out a lot different.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, Mike Myers and Dana Carvey were offered to play the Dwayne's Garth on Dwayne's Underworld.
See, though, if you brought in Mike Myers and Dana Carvey, you would have had to make that scene at least twice as long. I mean,
twice as long.
You got those guys there.
Yeah. But it would have been twice as expensive because those guys there in that kind of makeup, ridiculous.
Yeah.
So the producers wanted Dan Aykroyd for the part of Roy Nabel.
I'm down with that too, man. I love Aykroyd. Everything Aykroyd does is gold too, man.
It's surprising how many films you watch where Dan Aykroyd was like pitched to be the lead actor.
Well, he was a hot commodity, man. Like he can act and do comedy, and do music. Like he's just a friggin' renaissance man, Dan Aykroyd, and create damn fine vodka.
I mean, it's all right vodka. I mean,
You don't like Crystal Skull? Oh, it's good vodka, man.
I don't know. The time I
Goes down
had
like
it,
water.
it might have bettered over the years, but like I remember like the first year or two I had it, it was not my
That's
jam.
pure, man. No artificial sugars. They just mix a little corn into the mash, and that's where it gets its sweetness. I'm telling you, not bad stuff.
Maybe I'll try another bottle if sometime soon. The studio, speaking of more casting, the studio had Richard Dreyfuss and Tracy Ullman set to star as Roy and Helen, but the plan was dropped since it would have cost an additional $500,000 for their salaries. So could have been a very different
Interesting.
movie for Richard Dreyfuss.
Tracy Ullman may have been a bit distracting. She can be quite big. Richard Dreyfuss would have been fine, I think, as Mabel. He reminds me of John Ritter a lot in his acting style.
Yeah. In the wrestling sequence, the other announcer sitting next to Lou Albino looks suspiciously like Vince
Albano.
Jr.
He's not an albino.
Lou Albino.
It's Albano.
Okay, so yeah, all right. So I had a mistype.
I grew up
here.
with
I
Lou
might have
Albano. Trust me.
Yeah,
it's Lou
I
Albano.
got a mistype here. That was my bad. So it looks suspiciously like Vince McMahon Jr., who actually was a play-by-play announcer for the WWF starting in '71. So I have basically every show listed here. I won't go through all of them because we've already been through them, but I'll read off the ones that we might have missed, like Underworld Wrestling League, Autopsies of the Rich and Famous.
That's funny.
Meet the Mansons. What was the other ones here? Home Shoplifting Channel, Off with His Head, Unnamed Western Theme Show, both 310 to Yuma and Clint Eastwood was the man who, with no name or referenced. HV1 News, Hockey Game, Angels vs. Devils, Unnamed Medieval Period Show.
That's pretty funny as well, actually.
Yeah. A lot of unnamed stuff. But yeah. Cinematography by Peter Hyams, edited by Peter E. Berger, music by Bruce Broughton. Release date August 14, 1992, at a brief runtime of 88 minutes, with a budget of
Another strength.
With a budget of roughly estimated $15 to $20 million. Box office made $12 million. This movie was a box office bomb compared to UHF, which actually made money back. So,
I'm sure by now they've made their money back off it once you countered bringing DVD sales and everything like that.
Are you saying UHF or Stay Tuned has not made their money
Stay
back?
Tuned. Like it only lost $2 million at the box office.
I've never heard of the movie Stay Tuned until you're like, we're watching Stay Tuned, and I'm like, what the fuck is that?
It was an obscure movie, but it was on the movie network all the time.
I watched the movie network consistently, and I don't
it was
think
on
I
there
ever
all the
remember being
time.
there once.
Oh yeah, it was on there all the time. Yeah,
if you say so.
So yeah, I didn't have it on VHS or anything. I watched it on there.
So yeah. So what would you say the rewatchability for Stay Tuned is?
It's not that high for me. Like it worked for me because I hadn't seen it in like probably like 20 some years. So it I guess I'd give it some rewatchability, but not every year like you do with UHF for some crazy reason. But
I don't know. It's a comfort movie for me.
Yeah, fair enough. I have those as well. That's what Medicine Man is for me. Rewatchability. Yes, but it's not a high rewatchability. I mean, once you get the gags, you get the gags. After 20 years, I forgot the gags, so they were funny again. But like that's the same with a lot of comedies. Like a lot of comedies, you need space in between the rewatches, I find.
Yeah, I don't think I can. I don't think I see myself rewatching this film in the next 5 years. Maybe like 10 years from now. Maybe if I have like a kid and I want to show them something ridiculous and be like, "Hey, this
and the
is
performances
like the '90s."
And the performances make it rewatchable, which I would say UHF doesn't.
Again, this is apples and oranges because I think the performances in UHF are far more entertaining to watch than the performances in StayTuned. I found the performances in StayTuned empty and dry and like a commercial for the most part. Like it just felt like the
All the
fake
side
advertising.
characters for sure, because that's what they were. Like that was purposeful as well. Like everything in this movie is on purpose, but like the main characters are very good. They're not empty. Like even Eugene Levy, who's like this weird demon or something. You end up kind of like
Crowley.
relating and feeling to him.
I've never thought I'd see Eugene Levy as a Crowley, but you know, I enjoyed Eugene Levy, and you know,
Surprise, motherfucker.
Eric King. I enjoyed Eric King.
Yeah, fair enough. Does it hold up? Yeah, I think it does. I think it's kind of prophetic. Again, it's not as good as I remember, but I do think it holds up. It was prophetic about the screen addiction and other things. And the performances are very good. Sets are good for the time. Like even like now, like it just looks good. Um, yeah, it holds up. It's memorable. Like a lot of those scenes, you'll remember these scenes. A lot of these scenes because they just stick with you. Even just like it'll blow your mind or blow you away. Like
I mean, some of them might stick with me. Like the
Stroke.
different strokes one is gonna stick with me more than any of them. I I'm at first watch, I was pretty like, okay, like it's kind of entertaining. It's a little boring. I don't, out of all the movies, it's definitely at the bottom of the list for me. Um, but that being said, yes, the movie does hold up. For me, it in the sense that like visually, it's surprisingly holds up considering how dated it is. I thought the graphics would be a little like, especially the
It's only 3 years
visual, like
after
CG
UHF.
stuff. Yeah, right. So like the setting and the aesthetics they're gorgeous. Like they're really well built and well done, and everything is very seamless in the way it transitions the scene. So it's a well made movie. Um,
And well acted
yeah,
for the main
it's
actors. And
for
it's
the
clever.
most
Like
part.
there's a
For the
lot of
most
depth
part.
in its layers of humor and storytelling. There's like some depth there, and like especially with a lot of
I
the
don't
meta
know about
stuff.
depth. I feel like it was all pretty on the surface for me. All like the
Well,
whole
like for
like
example, of like how the things like how his wife was so much better at all that stuff than he was. They don't explain that out to you, but if you pay attention, you realize that why isn't he the one that knows these things since he watches TV all day? Like, there's a lot of things in this movie, like again, which I find a lot of modern movies expect their audiences to be stupid, especially modern TV shows. They just expect everyone to be dumb. So they have to explain everything to you and hit you over the head with it and hang a lantern on everything. You get it? You get this, right? You get this? You get it, right? You get this. This movie doesn't do any of that. And a lot of older movies don't. They expect you to be intelligent, and if not, watch it again, and then maybe you'll get it. Like, and I feel like this movie did a bit of that. Doesn't hold your
I
hand.
don't argue with
It's
that
like
point by any means. You're not wrong there. I feel like again a lot of that stuff was still on the surface. Like I was catching a lot of that subtext throughout this film, and it's just not like I think they they might have had maybe room for more depth, I guess, but again, the only reason it felt so surface was because of it felt like a product placement movie. Like it was a
again,
film
but that's on purpose. Like that
on
veneer of
yes, it is on purpose.
shallowness is on purpose again. Like everything in this movie is very tight. It's very tight. Like for a movie that is just loose threaded chaos, it's very cohesive in
Well,
its storytelling.
and I think that is an excellent segue from the
Mhm.
chaos and cohesive chaos to the tight knit uh, glory that is our third movie of the night.
Well, our third
Nick,
movie here in Theater 3.